We just finished the 11th edition of the annual climate conference here at EY, organized by the Florence School of Regulation, the climate area. Every year I try to add something new, and this year there were two novelties. One was that the conference was back-to-back with the final conferences on life course and the Horizon project Capable. So this made us run a marathon, but it was really exciting. The second novelty was a special session for a special person, the session on David Pearce. David Pearce passed away 20 years ago. I was one of his students back in the 90s, and I wanted to reunite here some other students in those years. So we had a great discussion on his legacy. And you know, at this conference we always have many young scholars, so it was a great way to let them know what David left and what he created for the European Association for Environmental Economics all over the world. So we are very grateful to David, and there was one word that emerged many times: passionate. I think he taught us the passion for what we are doing, and this is what I want to pass on to the next generation.
Hi all, my name is Frank Convery, and I'm doing this from Dublin. And I've given it the title, David Pearce, The Importance of Passion. And I'll come back to that word, passion, later on. It comes in a way from Johnson's famous dictionary in 1773. He defined love as to regard with passionate affection. And that theme really is what this talk is about, because I was asked by Ian Bateman to do an article on David shortly after he died for the Journal of Environmental and Resource Economists. So a lot of what I'm saying really comes from that reflection. And the big thing I got when I wrote to people to get some thoughts about David was passionate affection. And I have two quite different examples to illustrate from the 32 people who responded in writing to me. The first is from David Madison, and he said about David, David was a splendid teacher who was loved by all his students. He always found time for them, even when he had just returned from one of his many trips abroad and was clearly exhausted. The second is from Janet Ruddy, and Janet was his administrator for CSurge. And I love her recall. She wrote to me, David did his fair share of cleaning. He was not impressed by the cleaners that the college provided, and if he got into the office early or had an appointment that was cancelled, he would clean the kitchen, and that included the floor as well as the worktop surfaces. The rest of us would be prevented by a strategically placed mop across the door from entry until the floor was dry. So that's kind of a personal reaction from two of my 32 respondents, which are representative. I just want to spend a few minutes on my two eureka moments in my professional life. The first, which many of you probably share, was when I was at Duke University. I came across Resources for the Future's reprint series. And in those, many authors, but notably Knesa, Blair Bauer, and John Crutilla, but many others, essentially demonstrated how empirical thought leadership could be powerful, marshalling evidence basically. And their core message was that pricing pollution was the best way to promote the environmental commons. And the second eureka moment, of course, came from meeting David Pearce when I was back in Dublin. And he basically taught me, as he taught many of you, the best ways to influence outcomes, and that they had 4 dimensions. The first, of course, drew directly on the Resources for the Future insight that pricing pollution recognizes the scarcity value of nature, basically. And if you do it, you always emphasize the importance of audience, and in particular, the fact that when you price pollution, the Minister for Finance becomes as interested in environmental performance as the Minister for the Environment. So you immediately change the game in terms of government attitude to environment. But also he made the point that, of course, this a parallel phenomenon happens with businesses, because the decisions and the interest and the action and the concern moves from the boiler room to the boardroom. The second point he always made and demonstrated, of course, was the collaborative research that generated credible evidence, but also building the capacity to ensure that there were many disciples to spread the word. And many of you listening to this will be his disciples. His third message, which is, I think, underappreciated, the first two people get in our profession, but the third was to go to where the power is. David always took the message to whoever could actually, in the political or administrative world or business world, really change outcomes and do so at scale. This final message, which again and many have taken to heart, was distillation of the message. Be short, crisp, and so on. Be clear and compelling, but most of all, be fearless and forceful in expressing them in the public square. So thank you all for keeping the Pearce flame alight and alive.
Hello, my name is Ayumi Onuma from Japan. I'm honored to share a short message in memory of Professor David Pearce. In 1994, I first wrote to David. At that time, I had almost no background in environmental economics, but I had a strong interest in environmental issues and hoped to study environmental economics more seriously. Fortunately, at that time, I was given approval from my university to go to study abroad. Through David's books and papers, I already felt familiar with his ideas. So I asked David if I could join CSURG as a visiting researcher. To my great surprise, he kindly accepted me. This photo was taken at CSURG when I was staying there. Thanks to him, I could spend 2 years there, learn many new ideas, and meet friends who still support me today. David was always warm, open, and encouraging. In Japan, environmental economics was still very new. Some colleagues encouraged me to translate this textbook by David Kerry Turner and Ian Bateman into Japanese. After I returned to Japan, I completed the translation, and the book was published a few years later. The book has been read for many years. Even 3 years ago, it went into 11th reprint. It's surprising. Its long life shows lasting value of David's ideas. Again, I'm deeply grateful for David's kindness to me when I was a young researcher, and his belief that economics can help to solve environmental problems. Thank you very much.